Hello and welcome to Sansad TV. You're watching Viewpoint with me, Frank RAUSAN PEREIRA. Well, paper leaks and some form of malpractice are a common occurrence when it comes to exams in our country. Over the years, we have seen several recruitment exams under scrutiny and the process being put on hold or scrapped due to some form of cheating. A high-level committee headed by former ISRO chairman K Radhakrishnan was constituted last year to look into this menace and come up with a possible solution. The 7-member panel suggested some key recommendations which include implementing a hybrid examination model, reducing dependency on outsourced services and private test centers, and the development of a Digi Exam platform which draws inspiration from the Digi Yatra initiative. These were just a few recommendations made by the committee in its extensive 184-page report. In this edition of Viewpoint, we will analyze how to foolproof entrance and recruitment exams. Joining me on the program today are Professor Shobhit Mathur, Vice Chancellor, Rishihud University, Professor Aditya Mittal, IIT Delhi, and Lambodar Raut, Career Guidance Expert. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of Viewpoint. Aditya Mittal, let me start the program with you first. Let's first try and understand, first and foremost, you are part of that committee as well, the high-level committee. So let's try and put into perspective and try and understand the scale of the problem.
All right. First of all, the views are personal. I am grateful that I got to do some national service through that committee headed by a very able chairperson. So my views will be completely personal based on my experience in the system. The first aspect of this is that over the years, cheating in examinations, especially entrance examinations, has transformed from unique cases to an organized crime kind of thing. See, the importance of entrance examinations is no less than the security of the country, because these serve as gateways to future of the country towards highly competitive and responsible positions or avenues of education. And they will bring out not national leaders but world leaders. And so what has happened is that when we had the earlier IPC, there were no deterrents per se towards students. Bacche hain, maaf kar do kind of thing. But with Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, I think to the best of my limited knowledge, now this organized crime in educational tampering has been recognized, and that will serve as a major deterrent. Now, in terms of how rampant it is, well, if you go to early 80s, 90s, and even 2000s, it was probably individual cases of cheating which were caught. And they were dealt with mostly in terms of a warning or debarring from some particular process, but for which the systems didn't have memory to keep records of them. Post 2000s in this century, it has become really rampant. And when I say really rampant, it does not affect the whole examination, but remember, the examination process is a 8 to 12 month preparation with a chain of events which have to be organized. And the weakest link in the chain determines the maximum strength that examination system has. So these people who have vested interests, what they do is, I'll give you an example. I'll promise you that I'll help you clear an examination towards something. Let's say you don't clear it. Then I want to make money off you again. So I'll promise you, I'll give you a second attempt or a third attempt where you will do it. So I'll keep paying, you'll keep paying me to get into that examination. And I'll start trying to create avenues for you to go through some kind of a window. So what happens in that is either you have locals or you have centers, localized places where you can have breaches of the weakest link, or you will have individuals whose identities cannot be confirmed, because nowadays with deep learning and AI, you have so much rampant copying of photographs and other kind of things where identity of the person sitting for the exam, identity of the person appearing for selection, and identity of the person appearing for the course becomes difficult. Anecdotally, you saw an example of that being brought about in front of your eyes in Three Idiots. Now, that was seen as a fun movie, But the important aspect there was that a student ended up studying there who actually was not even enrolled later
yeah.
on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for painting the picture for us and putting into perspective as to where the situation stands right now. Of course, the problem is big, it's rampant, and it's moved on from a petty crime to an organized syndicate crime, so to speak, at the moment, and it needs to be addressed right now. Shobhit Mathur, let me come to you now. Let's also understand, as far as dealing with this particular problem, what should be kept in mind and how should we deal with this rampant problem?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Frank, for inviting me for this very important conversation. In fact, I, along with the former Cabinet Minister, Suresh Prabhu, we have written an article on this after the last year's NEET exam malpractice that came out. So, I've been fortunate. I've written the JEE, I have written the GRE, the GRE Advanced, I have written GMAT. I've had this exposure of writing competitive exams both at the national level and at the international level. So, and the proposal that we had shared, and I still believe that it is something that we should look up to, is it is not that exams in India are the only big challenge. I know there is so many different digital divide, socio-demographic changes that are there, but still at the international level, very high-stake examinations are conducted at a similar scale, I should say. And if we just take the SAT or a GRE as an example, and my proposal was centered around that we should be conducting exams all through the year as phase one. Like even the proposal that has come out of the committee is exploring multiple stages. So you should have possibly a two-stage process where the first stage is driven out of a computer adaptive test, just like the GRE or GMAT is done. It is pulled out of a question bank of a huge data set where there is no chance of possibly leakages because every test is personalized. And then you have possibly a much smaller number conducting the phase two of the examination. We should learn from the international best practices. There's a lot to learn. These things have happened elsewhere. And we can, given current India setup, many of these things are still practical and they can be done at the India scale as well. So that is what I believe. Otherwise, this attempt to do a scale of millions of students giving an examination in physical centers and somehow trying to execute it flawlessly and where there's a standardized question paper is going to be impossible because you are just dealing with a very different scale, and anything that goes wrong in a few centers could be detrimental to the careers or the futures of everybody else who has kind of complied with the rules. So there is no chance statistically. I think that even the IIT professor Mittal will agree that it is impossible to do this flawlessly. So you'll have to reduce the probability of that happening. And I think the only way to go forward is a two-phase examination with the first phase conducted as a computer-based test done at multiple centers at a dates flexible to whatever the applicants could choose for. So I think that proposal should be kind of thought about, and I have sent it to the chairman of the committee as well, and it has also been kind of some parts of that I see are also incorporated in the suggestions given. But I think that is something that I believe is more robust and should be carefully considered. Yeah.
Okay, points very well taken. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We can't have a foolproof, flawless system in place. Let's first work on ensuring that we reduce the probability of malpractice and cheating and take baby steps towards taking that giant leap sometime in the near future. All right, Lambodar Rao, let me bring you into the picture now. Let's also, broaden the scope of the discussion and bring in another element and try and understand that as well. Why is it that we are seeing so many people go in for these entrance exams and these recruitment exams over the years? The number is only increasing. Is that because of lack of career choices, so to speak?
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for inviting me. I just want to highlight a few points. Sir, I already told about the cheating exam, how to overcome. But we need to believe the root cause. Since if you believe in 2003 also, CAT exam paper was leaked. Same way, there is in law and order, there is a problem. Because the point I'm telling about, last 2023, CBI has caught few agents across the India for IIT exams. Still, they are again started their own consultancy at doing this. So they don't have fear. So my point is that I'm requesting to Government of India to make some strict rule, law and order, so that if that they are just caught red-handedly, they will not do again and again. In fact, at the same time, those parents are doing the wrong kind of activity with the help of fraud agent. Again, the government of India should take some strong rule those parents, because not only agents are doing the wrong things, parents also involved, because with the both way, because cheating means that both way they are doing that. So my request is that if you make any like computer-based exams or paper-based exam, still there is a lacuna. If you surprise exams like GRE, Sarah told, GMAT, people are doing cheatings in India. Yes, I've seen, like, the same way. The law has to be strict. Otherwise, I've seen so many agents, they caught red-handedly. CBI has already caught. Still, they are doing the business again and again. They don't have fear. So my concern is that not only in NEET exams also, you already knew it, last year NEET exams, 24,96,000 students already suffered 2 months. Supreme Court have taken the final decision. Still, students have already suffered. But in that case, but again, same mistake has been done by the agent or fraud agent this year again, because they don't have fear. I'm repeated once again, parents and the fraud agent, the government should identify them, and like the law has to be so and so strict, they will not do again and again. This is the major point I just want to highlight. And one more thing, the exam and the method, like, the question papers from transport system has to be proved. Yes, there is no point of leakage question paper whether in transport level or in, like, exam center. In exam center also, some fraud agent, like, they are hacking the exam center, you'll surprise, by paying lakhs of rupees to the examiner and all. So this is a true fact. We have seen last 20 years, I've seen that. Again, they are doing again and again, caught by the red handle by the police. And next year, they will again start by the new names. That is a problem. They don't have fear.
Sure, points very well taken. We need to set an example really as far as those who are indulging in such practices, and make an example of them so that nobody else follows, is the point that is coming through. All right, Aditya, let's discuss, another aspect now. We've spoken about technology, and, you spoke about how ingenious ways are being found out really to try and cheat and get the best out of the examination in the way that they can. How do we deal with this? Is technology the answer? Because, you look at some other technology like this that has come through. You have blockchain, which is trying to, so you're basically cutting iron with iron, so to speak. Loha hi lohe ko kaatta hai, like they say.
Correct.
So is that the method, and is that the approach?
Well, there are two aspects to it. Let's be very clear. Anecdotally speaking, the level of criminal activity sometimes reflects the creativity in society, which basically means that no matter what measures I'm going to put, if I have creativity in the society, there would be somebody who would try to break in. And many times in history, we have these breakers become assisters of the system to build better security solutions. So the first thing is, yes, technology is the answer. We need to be ahead of technology. That's number one, so that there is an incubation period for anybody who wants to break in. We need to have teams which are dedicated to anticipating what could be the break-ins in terms of these technologies. And this technology, by the way, is not just limited to on-site of the examination or post-examination processes, even in transport of material, this technology. But technology with proper human intervention is important. Here, if you permit, I'll give you an example of the examinations conducted by the IIT system. These are selection examinations, and every IIT, now there are 23 and we had 7 to begin with and 5 earlier than that, faculty from every IIT would be involved without considering whether it's a menial job or not in every step of the process. When we were doing physical exams, the trunks were carried by professors actually, not by coolies, by professors, to maintain security essentially.
So this limits the number of hands that are actually put on those papers, or,
Not just that, it also limits it also brings in people who have a personal investment into the process. So therefore, any breach of the process would be taken as a personal this thing. I mean, so there is a sense of responsibility towards that. Examinations would be carried out in schools, mostly Kendriya Vidyalayas, where you have honest teachers who would be invigilating the exams.
You know, just to throw in a question here, you know, something that Shobhit Mathur touched upon in his opening remark as well, you know, when you are looking at the kind of scale that we are looking at in India, millions of people really, you know, thousands of them, lakhs of them going and writing these examinations. So how personally invested can the stakeholder, that is the lecturer or the teacher, be in such a, such a process?
So the stakeholder has to feel involved. Even today, the IIT exam is like that. And the things which were alluded to, you know, we have to carry out entrance examinations with the sensitivity of the country in terms of a variety of things. And as the other panelists suggested, many of those suggestions are already incorporated into the report. The question you essentially are focusing on right now is, we can have a variety of solutions, but technology is the answer in terms of minimizing the probability of intervention with two aspects. One, whether it is on-paper exam, that also involves technology. I need to have proper OMR sheets designed. I need to have checks where they can't be duplicated. Or whether technology is just digital technology. For example, you mentioned Digi Yatra. I mean, this is basically to enable us to ensure that the person who sits for the exam is the person who appears for the selection process and is the person who attends classes. This is what the Digi platform is aimed at. So technology is the answer, and we are in that direction, but it does not mean that technology is limited to only digital exams or you know, computer-based exams. Even paper-based exams require technology, and that technology has to be integrated in such a way that we appreciate the idea of scale-up. When you say millions of people, well, we need to start with a few thousand, we need to test them, and then we need to scale up to 1 million people. Ultimately, entrance exams are the only, you know, least of the evils, if I would say, to provide equal opportunity to everybody without me and you having the prejudice of facing a person and saying, let's select this person. So they provide equal opportunity, and for this equal opportunity, we need to enable technology for all students or all examinees, potential examinees, to be able to take advantage of practicing on these platforms.
Right.
So make them available and make the mock exams available, material available. And in this way, I think our education system has been doing very well. Now NCERT material is available free of cost to everybody online. And people who claim that there is a problem with technology distribution in the country, well, I have been to the remotest parts of the country, and and we are seeing touch phones everywhere.
Yes.
So you know, the PDF files which are there for educational material, the video lectures and everything, they are made available. We are using technology, but we are taking baby steps, and hopefully this committee's report implementation has shown results already. This year now, NEET UG was conducted with implementation of recommendations to every extent possible, and there was not a single report of paper leak. There was complete coordination between agencies, and there was no question about the integrity of the exam.
Sure. Points taken. Yes, Lambodar Raut, I see you want to come in. Yeah, go ahead.
So whatever, start talking about the technology, that's fine. But what about the repeater offender? They are doing malpractice every year. They're going to jail, then come back. Again, they're doing the same kind of activities. If in 2023, almost 800 students are already admitted in IITs because they are, you know, like in server, they just, you know, like hack in Russia, Indian agent or Indian fraud agent, I should say. So what about that? If you develop the technology, if you develop the like system, excellent. But my request is that those who are doing repeated mistakes and like offenders, the government has to take the strong action to the fraud agent along with the parents as well. So
points taken. Points very well taken. I think you very strongly advocated the fact that no one should be let scot-free, and those who are involved should be punished and an example made of. Yes, very quickly so that I can bring it over as well. Yeah.
The first thing is that for the medical examination, already CBI has made public. Repeat offenders have been caught, and now through Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, they are being dealt with. Secondly, sir, if you think that there are 800 people you know of are studying falsely in IIT system, I think it's your moral responsibility to give us the names. Please don't make such claims. until you have the direct information about
Okay,
these.
we're going to take the discussion forward now. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me bring in Shobit Mathur into the picture as well, because he has been listening patiently. Shobit Mathur, let's move away from all of this. Let's try and focus and understand really, as far as best practices are concerned. You touched upon it in your initial remarks that, you've given all these examinations around the world, examinations that have been known to have immaculate reputation as well. What are some of the best practices that we can incorporate in India, that we can incorporate to scale really as far as India is concerned? That is one. And can we have a one-fit-all approach?
Okay, yeah, thank you for bringing me again. So I'll try to also combine the previous question that you had, and the committee report also alludes to this. The point is that at this point, when we are conducting these huge examinations like the JEE or the CUET or the NEET, they are one-day huge examination where my entire life is at stake, right? And the report also says that how do we move away from this high-stake examination to a lower stake examination. So what does it mean is that once the incentives are so strongly aligned that I have to perform well on these given 2 hours that I have, there's always going to be some form of malpractice happening. But if you can somehow reduce that barrier and say it is lower stakes and still have all the safeguards in place, the probability of allowing such things to happen reduces. So what happens is, for example, you asked me what are the global best practices, and I'll repeat my initial remarks, is that you should have 2-phased examination. The first phase is spread out. I should be able to go to a test center on a particular date of my choosing and give an examination of the first stage of the examination at any point of time. So you spread this across the whole year. You don't do this on one date. You allow reattempts. So what happens is the phase 2 is decided. That is at a particular date. But before the phase 2 happens, I can do multiple attempts of phase 1 so that I can improve on myself. If I don't do well, my best score is considered for the phase 2. So this is how it happens. You are given 3 attempts to write the GRE, or you're given multiple attempts for any other examination like the GMAT, and you can improve on your score. So somehow the stakes of doing well on a particular day reduces. So your innovation to go and do some form of malpractice, the incentives are lower because you could always improve upon. And it reduces the stress on the system. You can better govern if you have lesser people coming to your center on a particular day and the load is lesser. So 2-phased examination, where phase 1 is computer-based in different centers at any point of time during the year. And after that, you choose a small set of people, probably the way I think is 5 times the number of seats that you have. So for example, if you have 10,000 seats at IIT, you choose 50,000 students, or similarly for the NEET. And you allow only them in the phase 2, which is done in a much more proctored way, in a physical way. So this will possibly reduce more, such cases of malpractice that comes. You have to reduce it to a very low stakes examination. And of course, other panelists, what they have said in terms of the law being stronger, using biometrics so that once you do malpractice, you will not be allowed to write that exam again, possibly pull in the coaching centers involved in these things. All those things have to be done. But the fundamental point I'm trying to make is somehow you should relax it and make it a lower stakes than keeping it a very high stakes examination. And typically a 2-phase examination with the first phase of multiple attempts is the way to go.
Okay, all right. Yes, Lambodara, go ahead.
In UG level, the government of India is only admit the written exam. Apart from written exam, my suggestion is that add some video kind of interview, 1 minute or 2 minutes, they can judge on the basis whatever. So that because this malpractice, we can't stop 100%. It will continue. But yes, we can reduce it up to 90% of that. But apart from that, what sir already told that phase 2. In phase 2, some kind of video interview or whatever, do kind of activity. In that way, I believe we can get best of best talent for IITs or AIMS or law. All these top, across the India top universities, the brightest students can get the right place in right university.
Okay, I'm going to let you close the show for us, Aditya. But before that, let me get a quick closing comment from Shobit as well before I wind up here in the studio. Shobit, best way forward, what are your concluding remarks?
Agreed with all the technology, law becoming stronger, but we have to look at the softer aspects of the social angle. which have been missed in this conversation? How do we regulate the coaching centers, the stress that they put on them, on the students? How do we overall as a society also kind of reduce this whole anxiety that is created around examinations? I mean, unless you address the social and the psychological aspects of this, we will not be able to address the examination stress that is there. So that also has to be worked on, and a lot of different stakeholders are needed in doing this. Particularly the coaching center should definitely be, there should be stronger action on them, because the whole anxiety created about being a topper, giving incentives, trying to claim ranks, this whole culture of the coaching center is creating too much anxiety. That should be strongly regulated, and without that, our solution would be incomplete.
Okay, all right. Thank you to my guests who joined us on Zoom, and thank you to the both of you, Shobit as well as Lambodar, for joining me on the program and sharing your views and perspectives with us. Let me take the conversation forward here in the studio with Aditya. Aditya, I think that's a very important aspect that was raised about the social and psychological aspects of the entire process also that needs to be addressed and looked at too, because there's a lot that is dependent on this livelihoods at the end of the day that come to the fore.
Correct. So I agree with it. Let me first give the idea of the other panelists trying to. The government of India, to my knowledge, is implementing most of their suggestions already. The model for JEE Mains, JEE Advanced is the two-stage process, and for IIT system, we have always kept, it's written in our examination manuals also, we always keep 1:20. So if there are 10,000 seats in IITs, we will have 2 lakh students appear for exams, kind of thing. And we've had the technology of screening versus selection long time ago. Now, examinations have elimination, selection, or no child left behind. These 3 as major aspects in terms of, helping the student build their educational career and go towards higher education. So in terms of lowering these stakes and in terms of importance of these exams, my personal feeling is, from the social, the softer angle which you asked, the first thing which has to be done is parents need to start giving importance back to school system again. The point is, I'm not talking about coaching centers or anything, because these are entrepreneurial activities and people will try to do them. We need to regulate them. I will simply say that a coaching center should not be able to use the name of IIT or AIIMS to make their progress. They should pay some kind of royalty. I mean, nowhere in the world it is. As a citizen of India, I need to have a passport or an Aadhaar to actually claim benefits of being a citizen of India. But these rampant practices of keeping the name of IIT in your advertisement, that's first plain wrong. Secondly, parents and students need to recognize coaching centers are killing their holistic upbringing. We don't want to become robots which solve problems and pass in the examinations. And lastly, one of the aspects of education for students is sensitizing students that every exam is not for everybody. The fact that there are so many exams for creating equal opportunity to everybody is for giving the variety to a student to pick and choose what they want to excel at. Now here we are having a bhedchal, if you will, for everybody trying to excel in the same thing, even if they're not interested.
Right.
This needs to be brought about through social change.
Absolutely. I think we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much, Aditya, for joining me on the program and sharing your views and putting things into perspective for us. What's coming out of this discussion is that it's difficult to have a completely foolproof system as far as entrance exams are concerned, but we need to progress by reducing the probability with each baby step that we take and have the best kind of system within a few years. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Viewpoint. See you again next time.